Hello and welcome to the show. This is Sacred Wellness with Terry Ann Russell. I am your host, and today we honor the power of healing and awakening while diving deep into what it means to rise from the deepest challenges and reclaim our wholeness, mind, body, soul, and purpose. Today, I'm excited to welcome Gulara. She's my guest on the show today, and Gulara used to be a law lecturer turned successful healer. I have a similar story, but she has a thriving business today and she supports healers and therapists in unlocking their power as a healer. She helps them release money blocks and helps them to feel great to market themselves. She's also a best-selling author. So, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Terry Ann. It's wonderful to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. I want to hear a little bit more about how your journey started and where it began for you that you went from law into healing.
It started with a lot of trauma. I've been healing my own trauma. And at some point, I remember I just got my permanent lectureship, which was really big thing. So it was 2 months into my lectureship when I was marking exam scripts late in the evening, sitting in my office. And suddenly I had this message. There wasn't any booming godlike voice, but I heard loud and clear, I'm here to teach and I'm here to write, but law was not the right content. And I thought, what can I possibly do? I've been studying and working towards this for years. So it took a while to transition from the moment that I knew this wasn't right to the moment when I trained and gained confidence as a healer. And even then, it was just like, oh, can I really jump this boat? And once I did, I haven't looked back. But yeah, it came more as a inner knowing, I guess.
Mm. Did people think you were crazy?
I'm sure they did. Some family members still haven't got over that, but here we
How
are.
could you?
How could you? I had a successful career, and yet it just didn't feel right anymore. I was in
Yeah.
love with it, and then things changed. I changed.
Do you look back on that life and think you don't even know who that person was anymore?
Absolutely. And things changed once kids arrived. And I remember I was back from my first maternity leave, and they sent me the proofs for my academic publication. It was being published in a book. And I read it and I was thinking, "Oh, who wrote this? I can't imagine writing something like this." I guess things change. Yeah.
Yeah. And it changes and shifts often, I find, on our paths as well, right? Maybe what you started in the beginning, like the purpose may be the same, but how you get there may have shifted and changed during the journey. Do you find that with your clients?
Absolutely. I at some point I remember I was doing my academic job, I was writing a book, and I was doing healing work. And it felt like I was having three jobs, and I had young kids as well. And they didn't there were no crossovers until I realized actually I was doing the same thing in different forms because my legal research, I specialized in the rights of minority groups. So those who didn't necessarily have voice to speak up for themselves. So giving them voice was really important part of my
Mhm.
research work. And then my writing, my personal memoirs were about stories, my personal story of women in Azerbaijan. They may never be heard otherwise, at least in the West. And
Yeah.
then my healing work was all about giving voice to those wounded parts of ourselves, which had to be suppressed, disowned, orphaned, rejected, and they may never be heard otherwise. And once I got to that realization, it was such a relief. It was like, oh no, I'm doing one thing in three different forms.
Yeah, yeah, but you have to get to that point. I remember, so I started in psychology and human services, and I look back on that, and even though it's the same helping people, it's in a different form. But I remember coming home from work and crying because I was so unhappy at the work. I was a parent advocate, and so people who had their children taken away, I
Mm,
would help educate them, but still helping people, but it was heart-wrenching to me. And
absolutely.
so going from that world to this world has been totally a game changer. I think a lot of people, we get stuck in the logical And then we
Mhm.
have the spiritual or the intuitive. And I think a lot of what my show is about today is about finding that balance in both. I want you to talk a little bit about the nervous system, because this is a huge component. When I figured out that my body actually meant something while I was here, it wasn't just this vessel. Because in the beginning, I thought this is just a vessel, I don't really need it. But the body and how that plays such a role in the nervous system. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I love talking about nervous system because although there is some information around, for example, freeze, fight or flight, um, responses of our nervous system. One thing is not discussed very much is that our nervous system talks to each other all the time. So, for example, if you are a therapist and you're holding a space and it's your first time or something and you're nervous, your client is going to pick up on that activation and their nervous system will respond the way they respond to any sense of not being safe. Somebody might run away, somebody might freeze, somebody might go into a fight, like some form of argument to shake you off your freeze. And
Right.
so a lot is happening at the nervous system before we say a word. Have you had an experience? You walk into the room and there was an argument and
Yes.
you haven't witnessed it, but you feel it because your nervous system responds to what's happening in the energetic field all around you, especially in other people. And so the more we can self-regulate, the more we can bring that activation down, the more we can impact other people, the more impactful our presence and communication is. Because otherwise, all this activation it gets reflected in our communication.
Yes, and so if you have a lot of fear around what you're doing, say, I know in the beginning I had some fear, I had some throat chakra issues and speaking my truth and all of that. So, clients that I would attract
Mhm.
would have
Yeah.
those similar issues. It's fascinating to me. Do you think that people that are unaware are even able to feel that things have happened, like an argument in a room before they walk in, but they're not really aware of it?
Well, here's the thing. There are three circuits in our nervous system: safe, fight or flight, or freeze. One of those circuits is always on. So if you're not feeling safe, you're in either fight or flight or freeze. And fight or flight can manifest as slight activation, nervousness, anxiety. So while it's fight or flight, there's still some life in there, right? We're still trying to do something, get out of the dangerous situation.
Right.
Whereas freeze is when trauma happens. That's the definition of trauma, in a sense. Like we give up. There's no way out. We just freeze, shut down, numb down. And so they may not be necessarily self-aware, but they will have some inkling that they don't feel anything or that there's some nervousness is happening. So I think one thing that people don't realize is that if you are not feeling safe, you're in one of the other circuits and your nervous system is constantly on, which is exhausting. It
Yes.
drains your energy, it keeps you up at night, it impacts your digestive system, it impacts your communications, it impacts everything, it impacts
Yeah.
your sex life. So bringing it down to some form of safety is essential to our well-being.
Yeah. And I think that's why people often, like when they meet people like us, they're like, oh, you're just so easy to talk to. Or I
Mhm.
feel like I've known you forever. Or I could tell you anything. Have you had those experiences?
Absolutely, all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
People come and we jump in at the deep end with whatever they come in because they feel immediately safe and then they can go much deeper.
Yeah.
I have a spiritual teacher and he used to say, if you don't feel held, you hold on,
Mm, it's
right?
powerful.
And so, for those of us who kind of want to let go, that holding is so important, especially holding of somebody who is really landed and present
Yeah.
and have a regulated nervous system, because then it goes both ways, right? Like somebody's nervous system is activated, it activates yours as well. But if
Yes.
they are landed and relaxed, then it helps your nervous system to drop down as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just telling you about the trip, but my husband and I were going up this windy, curvy road, and it was like if 1 second you'd be off the ledge, and I was getting so angry. Like I'm usually a very calm person, but I was really anxious, and he's like, "You need to calm down because you're making me nervous." But he had felt fine prior to that. It was just
Yeah,
me, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I do not like this.
yeah.
So
Can be
it's funny
contagious.
how our nervous systems interact. And I remember Eckhart Tolle, so he was a big transformative person in my life when I first began awakening. And he had said about the pain body and how our pain bodies activate one another.
Yes,
And I can see that vividly, how if you're in one of those feelings, fight or flight, unsafe or safe, how somebody would react to you, especially doing the energy work that I do.
yeah.
You can see, because I see energy, so I'm able to see that.
That's wonderful.
I want to talk a little bit about sort of struggles, because a lot of us who are healers feel like we're fraud. We have identity crisis. We're not good enough, or we've been told, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to do this work? How do
Yes,
that you're doing this work for the good? And, all of these things over and over again. I wonder how you help people sort of move through that on an energetic level, because if somebody's struggling with not being good enough, right, it shows up in so many different areas of their life.
it does. It does. But the distinction I draw is that it's a part of you that doesn't feel good enough.
Right.
It's a part. It's a wounded
It's
part.
not true.
It's just a part. It's
Mhm.
true to that part. It's very
Mhm.
true. It's very real to that part.
Yeah.
But you are not that part. That part is part of you. But you are presence, your consciousness, your
Yeah.
awareness. You're so much more than just that part. So what we end up doing is trying to improve on the part that doesn't feel good enough. But
Mhm.
it's that part's job not to feel good enough.
Yeah.
It's impossible to make that part feel good enough.
Yeah.
We're not approaching it in the right way. So we then go on and study and do more certifications, and nothing was
Mhm.
wrong with certifications. I do a lot of them. But the reason, if it's driven by this, I'm an imposter, I'm fake, I don't know enough, I can't achieve these results, then there's no end to this drive, right? We're gonna just do more and more and more, and the part still doesn't feel enough.
Right. So it has
And
many layers, and then it also has your body, your physical body.
yes,
It has your
yes,
mind, your logical
yes,
mind in there, and then has your soul aspect, who's another aspect of it. So there's all these layers, and then there's all these different parts. Is that what you're saying?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So our psyche has so many different parts, and those, if we identify with that part, we become that part. It's like we merge with that 5-year-old who was told, ah, you're just no good at this.
Hmm.
Right. And so and to that 5-year-old, they don't have access to all the resources and tools we have today.
Yeah.
Then you become totally helpless and you believe that so wholeheartedly. And the
Hmm.
more we can come into the body, because this is our transmitter, this is our vehicle for presence, right? The presence is not just this disembodied enlightenment that kind of takes you out of your body.
Yeah.
Presence is coming in because the body never lies. The more you can come into the body and recognize that you are not that part and being kind to the part is just doing a job,
Yeah.
just trying its best to protect you from being told off, from being humiliated, from being told again, oh, you're just no good.
Yeah.
So it's a protector, and behind that protector, there is a wounding, there's a hurt.
Hmm.
Somebody said something and it just landed like some pile of bricks or something in our system, and it
Yeah.
still weighs us down. And the more we can disidentify from that part. So the moment the mental chatter goes, because parts are usually in the mind,
Yeah.
the moment it kicks in, coming into the body, just going for a walk, doing something energetic to come
Hmm.
into the body and say, it's just the part, and bringing some kindness to that part and saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, sweetheart, just come here. It's all right. I am here now. I am the adult. I can handle this."
Yeah.
Because they're most of the time those parts are not updated. They still think we're that 5-year-old kid who can't handle criticism.
Yes, I remember I was the strong one. I was always the strong one. And even though you might not think that's a bad thing, right? To be told
Mhm.
you're always the strong one, you carry a lot with you that goes with
Absolutely.
being the strong one.
Yeah. Yes, comes with a lot of responsibility and
Yes,
pressure.
absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about money blocks and money beliefs because I think a lot of people have money blocks and money beliefs. Can you explain a little bit how limiting beliefs around money can get sort of into your nervous system regulation? Is that also something that you see in your
Sure.
work?
I love working on money because it's got nothing to do with money and everything to do with relationships. You see,
I love that.
I do this exercise, which I might just talk you through. So I often ask my clients, just imagine that money is a person. How would you describe your relationship with money? And they come up with all sorts of responses, perhaps avoidant or distant, cold, not reliable.
Smells funny.
Smells fun. And then I ask the next question, which is, who does it remind you of, mom or dad? 90+% of the time it's mom or
Mm,
dad or both. Sometimes it's a sibling, uncle, somebody close. But on the whole, it's to do with our primary relationships. It's to do more with love than with money itself. And any unresolved hurt or trauma we have with our primary carers gets projected onto money.
mm,
And so if we were betrayed, abandoned by our loved ones, we expect money to betray and abandon us when we need it the most,
yeah,
right?
that's powerful.
So when I do healing on money, we go back to the roots. We go back to the ancestral stories, back to the even time in the womb. You'd be amazed at
Yes.
how many imprints come from our time in the womb. And obviously, you don't remember what was happening, but it's possible to access that information. And most of the time, clients say, "But that's exactly what's happening in my life now." Like, yes, because that's the root. And
Yes.
then the symptoms play out throughout our life, and we're trying to fix the symptom. We're trying to do this, but actually the root is unhealed and it keeps repeating itself in various forms.
Yeah. It's such powerful work. When I do hypnosis, a lot of times we go into when you're in the womb. People don't realize that, a baby in the womb feels all of the chaos or all of
Yeah,
the love or whatever it is that's going on around it, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your free resource. It's called Healing Rest, which feels really timely in the crazy world that we live in today. And why is rest such a powerful and often overlooked tool for healing trauma? I know for me, like I grew up in that family where you had to hustle, you had to work hard.
Mhm.
Money wasn't easy. Money didn't grow on trees. It just doesn't come to you. And if you weren't doing something, you were lazy, right? So, I
Mhm.
had to unearth a lot of that stuff that had held me back previously. Can you talk a little bit about your free resource?
Absolutely. I asked my community what would support them the most, and they came back and said, well, it would really help us to have this healing reset because there's so much chaos in the world, so much grief, so the wars happening, and it's very hard
Yeah.
to really land in ourselves. And so I've created a resource that helps you to release that chaos and uncertainty that's happening anyway, but you can't do anything and you end up carrying it inside your body. Your whole nervous system gets activated because you don't feel safe, essentially, even though right now you're in your living room, nothing bad is happening there, and
Right.
yet you are reacting as if you are in the war zone. And then I've created a short resource which is tapping into peace, like literally using EFT tapping as
Hmm.
well, so that to anchor that peace, because if we are at peace, we are more likely to contribute to the world well-being in a positive way than
Yes.
being activated with all the events and unable to contribute in any positive way, but end up coming feeling like we're going down as well.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about that EFT and when you tap and how that affects your body also, but also all of
Yeah.
your systems and what that does for you?
I love EFT. I use about 8 or 9 different modalities. But what I love about EFT is that it's somatic. It stimulates the acupuncture points in our body,
Mhm.
where usually you go to acupuncturists and they stick a needle in. So
Yes.
instead, you are stimulating those points with your fingertips.
Mhm.
And you are also saying certain phrases, certain affirmations that are helping to get stuff out of your system by speaking it out, but also you are stimulating the acupuncture points that are helping to release at a physical somatic level as well. So I
Yeah.
love that. It works on so many different levels, and it really calms down your nervous system because it connects with the amygdala, which is basically part of your brain that works on fight or flight response. And so when you tap, amygdala calms down and you feel
Mhm.
so much calmer, no matter what's going, whatever may be going on in your life.
Yeah, it's a powerful resource for sure. I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your heart with us today. Your
Thank
work
you.
is so needed in the world, and just all your insights about the nervous system and trauma and healing. I want to thank you. And if this conversation speaks to you today, I'm going to share. Gulara, where can people reach you?
I have a website, gularavincent.co.uk. You're welcome to drop me a line, come by, use the resource, email me. I'd be always very happy to respond.
Wonderful. And if you love today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share to get the message out there. The healing is so needed in this world, and rest is sacred. It is part of, just like life and death, rest is part of that as well. So I thank you for listening today, and I will see you next week.
Thank you so much, Terian.